What does gutsy mean to you?
Gutsy means feeling the fear and doing it anyway, because I always felt the fear making transitions from a music teacher to business and computer information systems major. I felt the fear when I quit my job and I had two small kids. I felt the fear when I had to walk away from $1 million business, but I always trusted that I'll be able to do something better afterward. Because historically I've been able to do that. I just pushed and learned and continued. But the reason it was possible was because I really loved it. And I never gave up because I loved it.
You're listening to the Gutsy Podcast, where we talk about all things real, raw, and ridiculous about running a business authentically. Whether you need an inspirational pick-me-up or a swift kick in the mental ass, the Gutsy Podcast is your bi-weekly guide to getting out of your head and back into action. I'm Laura Ora, branding and mindset coach for female entrepreneurs, and your host on this journey through entrepreneurship. It's time to fuel your Gutsy. When you're in alignment, everything is easier and more enjoyable. But when you're out of alignment, you might find yourself waking up dreading the things that you have to do. Building a business is more than big numbers and goals. It's about creating something that fills your soul and allows you to live and work the way that you truly want. Look, today's episode is an extra special one for me because our guest, Milana Leshinsky, is the very first coach that I met way back in 2003 and was a foundational mentor that planted the seed for my career as a speaker and coach. Milana is the author of 2 books, Coaching Millions and Simplicity Entrepreneurship, and the originator of Telesummit. She's also the creator of Coaching Genie, which is a coaching platform that allows you to create and deliver your coaching programs online. Since 2001, Milana has created and sold over $9 million worth of programs, products, and trainings. Her goal is to empower thousands of freedom-seeking experts and entrepreneurs to conquer chaos, leverage their genius, and bring value to others without experiencing burnout. One of the things that I've learned the most since meeting Milana so many years ago is that every step that you take, you have to check in with yourself. You have to listen to and understand what's happening in your mind and in your body so that you know which direction to go in. And to say that I learned the hard way would be a complete understatement. After looking through all of the years, all of my challenges, all of the things that have popped up, I've realized that there is a foundational way to learn how to instantly shift the shitty thoughts in your mind in the moment. I want you to be able to really deeply reconnect with your true self and be able to take empowered control of your life and business. So I put it all into a 5-day free podcast experience. Every day for 5 days, I'm going to send you a 20-minute episode along with an amazing workbook to help you learn how to control your thoughts, how to move in a way that supports you instead of burns you out. And it's free. All you got to do is go to lauraora.com/foundations, and I'll send you the first episode right away. All right, my friend, today's episode is so beautifully nostalgic and full circle for me, so let's get into today's episode. My dear friend, Milana, welcome to the Gutsy Podcast.
Thank you, Laura. So fun to be here.
Oh my gosh. So before we get into anything, I need everybody to understand this backstory that you and I have, this history. So long story short, I was working at the Walmart portrait studio in the early 2000s. Yeah, do you remember that? Like
I forgot about that. That's where we met. I still have the photographs that you took.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So I was working there, going to college for graphic design at the time, and you came in to get headshots for your book and for your business, and we got talking, and I asked what you did, and you said, I'm in coaching. And at that time, I mean, we're talking, this is like 2003, right?
Yes.
At that time, the coaching world was not even remotely close to what it is today. It's to the point where I immediately thought, oh, she's a coach. What type of sport? Right. Because that's what everyone thought kind of in that time frame. And you and I just built a relationship, and I told you I was going to school for graphic design, and I did some freelance design for you for several years. Yeah. And I helped you with the cover of one of your books. I don't know if you remember that. Like it just goes back so far, and we've stayed in touch thanks to Facebook. And I saw you post that you were looking to get on some podcasts, and here we are
Yeah.
today. And it just feels so nostalgic to me.
And you came to my house,
I
and
did.
I got to do some coaching and some motivation. And yeah, it was an interesting experience because I never have any clients at my house. Or even locally, I've never had a client because all my clients are like all over the country and the world. Um, so it was a fascinating experience to have you over here.
Yeah, you were such a foundational part of my journey, and
Mm.
not even knowing it, because now fast forward 20 years, I'm a coach.
You're a coach. Oh my
which is
God.
so mind-blowing, because when I first met you, I thought I'm going to be a graphic designer and own an agency until the day that I'm no longer on this earth.
Mm.
But through building that agency, I could also see how I was building my coaching business and developing myself as a speaker. And you were literally the first introduction that I had that this was a career option. And it just opened up an entire world to me that I didn't know existed.
And I watched you grow your business and motivate your team. And I thought, wow, she's not just a graphic designer. She's a leader, man. She's building this amazing business. I didn't see that coming. So I was very impressed watching you build your team and motivate them and inspire them and do events and team building exercises and just, you were full of inspiration. So, and I wondered, are you really just a graphic designer?
Turns out the answer to that is no, there is
No,
more. There is
there's
more for
more.
sure. I just want to thank you.
Oh, I'm so
I've
happy to hear
never,
that.
I don't think that I've ever officially and had the opportunity to say thank you for
Mm.
just being such a foundational part of my life and in my career. Even though we haven't spoken quite some time, we stay in touch on Facebook, and I watch your ballroom dancing and all the incredible things that you're doing with your business. And, everyone listening, I just want you to know that, like, you just never know when you're going to meet somebody that could literally change your life. Like, I actually feel kind of emotional right now thinking about that, because,
Mm.
um, when we're doing things that we don't really want to do, but have to do, right? Like, did I want to work at the Walmart portrait studio? Not particularly, but it was a stepping stone, right? It was, these are the things that I need to do right now. I'm building my skills. I'm learning how to work with people. I'm doing something that is kind of interesting to me. But out of that, I met you. You know what I mean? And so if you're on a journey right now, you're not where you want to be, or you're having to do stuff that you are not loving, but it's necessary, just stay open, because you just never know when you're going to meet somebody that could literally change the trajectory of your career.
Well, Steve Jobs called it connecting the dots backwards, right? So you didn't know why you were there working in the Walmart photo studio, but here we are 20
But
years later. There's a reason for that. I have like a story that looking back, everything I'm doing now, like, oh, that's why I took that class. And that's why I really was antsy and anxious and bored at my last job before I quit my job and started a business. It all makes sense now. It all connects now. And, running a software company now, like, yeah, I was never meant to be a computer programmer, but look what I learned. I learned enough to talk to developers in a language that we understand each other. Um, to be able to develop a software product. So the dots are always connecting. You just don't know it yet. They will connect at some point.
that's very, very true. And that's a great segue into, you have a pretty incredible story, where you started, coming to the States, what you have built and created. I'd love for you to just tell everybody a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey and what's
Yeah.
led you to this place.
I love how you say entrepreneurial journey because I definitely didn't start as an entrepreneur because I grew up in the Soviet Ukraine. We came as a family in 1992 as the Soviet Union was kind of completely fell apart, and it wasn't a separate country yet, but it was no longer Soviet Union. So we came kind of like in the transitional time. And I was a music teacher. I had just graduated as a music educator. I was supposed to stay, in Ukraine and teach kids music history, theory, and composition. And so I didn't get to do that. I only did that as like on my last year as an intern. And then I came here. And the only thing I knew how to do was teach piano lessons at $6 per lesson, $6 an hour. That was in the 90s because I didn't really have any English yet. And I was still learning. And, a Russian teacher, a Russian music teacher, yes. $6 an hour, yes. And so I had all these little kids. And then at some point, I decided that I no longer want to do it this way because I didn't like the one-on-one dynamic. I was trained to work with groups of people, which is exactly what I do today. I do group coaching, I teach courses and programs, I run trainings for customers who use my software. So I'm very group oriented. And for that reason, I had to walk away from the music career and go into business and computer information systems. I actually had my first coaching experience with a cop. He,
Oh,
somehow, I don't know how I found him, why he was appealing to me, but this guy posted on one of the forums early 2000 something, 2001. I was still a web developer at a newspaper company locally. And a police officer posted a message that he's a coach and he's looking for people to practice on or to give a coaching session to for his credentialing. And I raised my hand and I said, yeah, I'm happy to do that. And I remember that I was sitting at my work at the newspaper's office on my lunch hour. I picked up a phone and I called him. And the first question he asked me, what does success mean to Milana? And I was never asked that question. I don't remember what I answered. I just remember thinking, who asks that? What a weird question. Completely unaware, completely unawake in my early, almost 30. I was almost 30 when I first started. So yeah, that was my introduction to coaching. And I've gone through different coaching businesses online. I've built the largest online community for coaches to create collaborative partnerships. I wrote a book called Coaching Millions in 2006 or seven. I've gone through many different iterations and brands, and all of it culminated in me developing software, or rather coming up with an idea and then hiring a team to develop my software that I run now, which is called Coaching Genie. It's for coaches who want to deliver programs and do coaching and need a client portal that would be easy to use. And because I needed that. And I always find myself creating stuff that I need and then seeing that other people need it too, and I take it bigger. So that's kind of where I am today.
amazing. And I mean, you've created and sold over $9 million worth of products and services and
Yeah.
programs. And, we were just chit-chatting before we started recording about how that's afforded you so many amazing things in your life. And, going from not feeling like any of this was ever possible to paying off your house, right? Like, can you
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about what this life and career has given you?
Yes. And I just remember, my grandmother passed away in 2012. And for a couple years before she passed away, she needed care. She needed a professional caretaker. And I remember like it was such a source of stress for my family. And I said, you know what? I can just pay for that. Why are we worrying about that? And I was the only one in my family who was able to financially afford that. And I'll never forget that because, we say if it's a problem that can be solved with money, then it's not a problem.
Hmm.
But that's only true if you have money, right? And so I just remember being grateful that I was able to afford to take care of my grandmother. And I was the only one in my family who was able to say, I'll do it, let me do it. I can do it. And it just felt really great. Um, but yeah, I've been able to invest in some real estate. You know, I don't know where I have that, Laura, to be honest. I have this irrational fear of being homeless, even though I've never been homeless and I don't see a possibility of being homeless, but I see so many homeless people out there that somehow I took that fear on myself. I don't know
Hmm.
why that is, but it's an irrational fear. So buying three homes soothed that fear for me. It was like, I will never be homeless. I have 3 homes.
That takes care of that for sure.
Yes, yes, yes. So I've been able to do that. And just I paid for my son's college 100%. He's very grateful that he graduated without any debt. He went to Penn State. That was $100,000. That would have been $100,000 college debt if I hadn't been able to cover it. So just grateful for all these opportunities that my business has allowed me to not worry so much about money. I still worry. I think all entrepreneurs are. I've actually been to an event and $1 million entrepreneur got on stage and started crying. She was getting coaching from the event host who was like a master coach. And I'm like, you just made $10 million last year. What's going on? And turns out that it has nothing to do with how much money you make. It has to do with whatever trauma you experienced around money. And so that's, she felt insecure about money. And she wakes up every day and she worries about money, even though she makes really good money.
Wow.
So I found that interesting. Yeah.
It is fascinating because our money story, our money background, our money experience
Yes.
has a lasting impact on the way that we not only handle money, but think about money, the energy around money, the way we
Mhm.
attract it, the way we spend it, right? What are some of the things that you think really contributed to your financial success? Because, in a quick snapshot, it's like, oh, okay, $9 million, that's incredible. Like, I'm sure that's not without its own challenges and learning experiences as well. But
Yeah.
it seems like sometimes money comes easier to other people than to some than others. But I think that that's very deeply rooted in that money story as well. So I'd just be kind
Yeah.
of curious, what are some things that helped you be successful on from a financial standpoint and to be able to grow these businesses?
That's a really great question. Well, first of all, in the Soviet Ukraine, there were no businesses. There was no entrepreneurship or proprietorship of any kind. Everybody made about the same amount of money. If you're like a first class engineer, second class engineer, third class engineer, you would get a set amount of money, no matter how talented or how hard you work. Everybody was equal, like the socialistic structure of being paid. So that's what I grew up on. We were not poor. I didn't think we were poor, but coming to the States and meeting other people from Ukraine and Russia, I'm like, man, we were broke. We were the, kind of like, if not at the bottom of the society, but like we were somewhere in there. We lived in a old house. There were 6 of us with my grandparents, very, small 2-bedroom apartment. I never knew I was poor, let me put it this way, until I came to the States and I met all these people who lived in their own houses. We never had a house. And so, yeah, I started seeing that other people lived a lot better, but I never experienced that. I guess the only thing I did experience the lack of was like, no, we can't buy this. Like it's a waste of money. So that's kind of where my mindset came from. And then I read a book by T. Harv Eker. It's called The Millionaire Mindset, I think. And I remember one particular section where he was teaching you to admire rich people, love rich people, respect and learn from rich people instead of like, oh, money is the root of all evil. So that was actually the first book ever I read in English from start to finish.
Wow.
It was a great read. It wasn't very hard to read. He was very engaging, captivating. But most importantly, I could feel my mind shifting. How cool is that? And he gave an example that I also really remember really well is somebody approached him at an event and said, what are you talking about? Money, money, money all the time. I don't care about money. And that's like almost like a noble thing to say. I don't care about money. I'm all about helping people. And what Harv was saying is that when you put that out there, I don't care about money, then you're not going to have money because you don't care about money. And so I think successful entrepreneurs do care very much about money, but they also care about the feeling they get when they help people transform. And so I think that that made a big impact on me, that book specifically. But I will tell you, I walked away from a seven-figure business about 8 years ago. Like I was at $1.4 million with my partner. We were making really good money. And I started having panic attacks.
Oh,
And I had to walk away. And I remember after I sold my part of the business to him, I remember sitting in my armchair, like, for the next week or so and thinking, wow, am I even an entrepreneur? Because I don't have a business. Can you be an entrepreneur without a business? But I also remember thinking that I never realized that I made $1 million. I was too busy working, working, working. My CPA, my accountant, called me and said, "Hey, I know you wanted to know your numbers. So last year was 1.4." And I'm like, 1.4 what? I said 1.4 million in sales. And I had no clue that I got there because when you are running your business, especially online with a lot of internet marketers influencing you and what you want to achieve, you're thinking seven figures, that's the holy grail of business. But I didn't feel any different. I felt tired. I felt burnt out. I wanted to go to the world, to an island where nobody has even heard of online business and online marketing. So that was my experience of making a shitload of money.
wow.
And so ever since then, I have become a little bit allergic to the idea of making $1 million. This is no longer part of my thinking. Right now, I'm running my business from the perspective of, do I love what I do? Am I excited to wake up? And I texted my mom yesterday, Mom, I love my business. I don't know what else nothing else would do because she always wanted me to get a job. Because that's all she knows and all she knew. But yeah, for me, it's all about, do I love it? Am I excited to wake up and run to my computer and do my thing? And I am. And so the money has become secondary. Not that's not important, but it no longer feels like I have to make $1 million. That's my goal. How can I make $1 million in 2024, 2025? Like, how can I hit those numbers? I no longer have that goal for me.
Yeah. I hear a lot of people talk about that, right? Like you hit a milestone and you don't feel any different, right? And whether it's financial or how many clients you have or, moving to a certain place, like whatever that goal was, they get there and it's like,
Mhm.
I don't feel any different. And it
Yeah.
sounds like one of the things that you did was shift the perspective on like the goal and started focusing on what do I actually want instead? How do I feel about this and driving it from that space? Does that
Yeah.
sound
Well,
true?
I was very clear on what I didn't want.
Hmm.
Because the day that I decided to walk away from the business, other than having panic attacks and not knowing how to stop them, I never had the experience of anxiety. I didn't know what I was experiencing. I used to call them episodes. I thought maybe I was just too hot. I bought a little fan on my desk and put it towards my face so I wouldn't be hot. So I would stop having these heat episodes. I didn't know they were panic attacks. That's how unaware I was. Um, but and I was actually more excited. I remember getting to six figures, my first six-figure year. I was so excited. We went to celebrate with my family to like a fancy restaurant in Baltimore because I thought that was the coolest thing. Six figures, that's $100,000. And I had just quit a job where I was making $30,000. So there was a huge milestone for me. But somehow hitting $1 million didn't feel as exciting. And the day I woke up thinking I'm going to walk away from the business was when I remember very clearly laying in bed and thinking, so today I'm going to do this. And then tomorrow I'm going to do this again. And yesterday I was doing this too.
Hmm.
And 5 years from now, I'm going to do this. And I felt depressed. And that was a new feeling for me because I used to be really excited. And that's how I started discovering like what was important to me. I wanted to be independent, creative, appreciated, and I didn't have those things in my current business at that time. I also learned that I don't like working with a partner full time, so I will probably never partner, like in a business. I partner on projects. So I learned a lot about myself and how I operate, that I needed that independence. And even like to me, money is an exchange for value. So in every one of my ventures, I've always focused on how can I create more value for clients? Even with the software, how can I create more value for my coaching clients so that even when I'm not there, they're getting value, that they're taken care of. They know that I'm there for them, even though I'm not personally there, because the system does the heavy lifting for me. So everything I do is about creating value. I'm like, you and I both have kids. When my kids were little, we had those conversations. Like I would always tell them, if you want to make money, you just have to create value. Find a way to create value for people. Do they find it valuable? They'll pay you money. So connecting what you want to do with creating value, like if you have like a two bubble Venn diagram, that's what it is.
Mm, that's a great example. You know, when you talk about that burnout space and, kind of at what might be seen as the top, right? You hit this seven-figure milestone, but you're having anxiety attacks, you're burnt out. What are some of the things that you felt led to that burnout and those anxiety attacks, not just for you, but for the people that you see in the same position?
Well, one thing you already mentioned, doing what you didn't want to do but had to do. I think that was very important for me to realize I was doing things I didn't want to do, but I did them for the sake of the business and the business partnership, right? Because you want to be a good partner when you come together with somebody. You want to be a good partner, and as a people pleaser, I needed to be a good partner. And when I wasn't, it caused me anxiety. And I would always like, towards the end of our partnership, I started I noticed that constant mind ticker in the back of my mind. Like I remember doing the dishes and thinking, what would he think? How would he react? Is he going to like this idea? Like I was constantly checking with the partner. And so that was a big one for me. As far as burnout is, like I was tired of doing things in ways that weren't true to me. And that kind of falls under the category of being misaligned. The alignment is huge. And it's a bit of a woo-woo concept, alignment, kind of like the energy. And like, what do you mean alignment? This is your job, you do it, you get paid. But being aligned means that when you do it, when you do something, you're constantly improving that skill because it is within your natural skill set. Like I did a teleclass that before the webinars or master classes were out there, teleclass, teleseminar back in 2003. And I loved it. And I even got a couple of clients from it. And I thought, I really like this format because it's all about teaching, right? I'm a teacher. So I signed myself up for a program called Teleclass Leader or Teleseminar Leader, something like that, back when it was offered. And I improved my skill, and I would do another teleseminar and another and another. And today I'm doing these webinars and I have thousands of people on them and I generate thousands of sales from webinars. So what I did is I discovered that this is what I like. I'm going to continue improving my skills within this framework so that I could continuously grow. Now, take the same thing around speaking and networking, live speaking and networking for me. I have taken trainings. I have worked with several coaches, and I am still not where I would want to be. In fact, I just stopped doing it. I just turned 50 last year. Like, I deserve to do what I love. I deserve
Absolutely.
not to do things that make me stressed out. Like, I just want to follow the energy of creativity, flow, alignment, joy. I don't want to do things that I don't want to do. And giving myself permission to walk away from the strategies that don't bring me joy has been the best thing because now I get to focus on the things that I want and that I'm good at and I constantly improve. So, I think a lot of people will say, well, you have to take yourself outside your comfort zone. Sure, but in the direction of alignment. And networking and speaking is great for some people, maybe for more extroverted people. For me, it didn't work. I am slightly on the introverted side. I love working at home by myself. When I do turn the extrovert on, it doesn't last very long. And then I go crash on my couch for the next several hours. So yeah, just recognizing you can go outside your comfort zone, but you just need to pick those strategies and the frameworks and the models in your business that will allow your natural skill set to flourish.
You know, your brain literally has the ability to talk you out of everything that you've ever wanted to do, or is going to support you to take steps towards the things that you truly want. I've got to share this quick story from Michelle. She sent to me, she said, I finally, after more than 5 years of finishing them, sent my manuscripts for a children's book series to a couple of publishers. Look, for 5 years, her mind talked her out of sending it out. It wasn't good enough. Nobody was going to pick it up. It was worthless. Why even bother? But after going through and learning this foundational method that I'm teaching you in this free podcast, she sent them in. She got out of her own way and is now on her way to a published book series. When you have the tools to know how to get out of your own way and take action that supports the things that you actually want, my friend, you become unstoppable. So if you're ready to make these positive shifts in your life, go to lauraora.com/foundations to get this free foundational method. I love that. Look, I'm a big fan of the concept and the word alignment because it's everything. You know, when you're in alignment, I always paint the picture that it's kind of like driving down a 4-lane highway and no one else is on the road. You know,
Ooh, I like that.
it's not that there aren't obstacles, it's not that there aren't, turns and bends. It just you're just flowing differently, right?
Yeah.
You can go as slow or as fast as you want to, and it just feels natural, right? And I think alignment really comes down to giving yourself permission to even have the questions or have the conversations that you had with yourself. Do I actually really want this? Do I like doing this? Can I see myself doing this every single day for the next 5 years, right? And if the answer is no, it's having the gutsy to lean in and make the decision to change something about it, right? Because
Yeah.
that's the thing, when you're aware of these things, now you're choosing, right?
Mhm.
Even if you don't want to do the thing, you're still choosing it. If you're not choosing to shift directions or to do the things that are truly in alignment, you're choosing to do the things that are draining you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there was a moment where I felt so trapped in my business and in my business partnership that I didn't see a way out.
Hmm.
The business was, making good money, but the partnership wasn't working out. And I had a business before the partnership where I was already making $500,000. So I knew I could do it on my own. I was doing it, the first seven, no, the first 11 years I was in my own business. I reached the point where I was super happy, but a good idea comes along and you say yes, as you should.
Yeah.
But feeling trapped because here's the great business. And what would I do if I weren't doing this business? How can I separate myself and what would I do next? Like I just was in a very trapped place. And I remember a woman who was an organizational consultant, like she would come in and mediate for people within the company. I ran into her at an event, shared my story with her, and she said, "You're not trapped. You have choices. You have choices. So you just have to make a choice that is the better one that will work for you." And so she gave me the guts to really walk away, step away,
Wow.
and realize that staying in that situation was worse than leaving, even though that meant that I wouldn't get to benefit from the 3 years of building that business. And now somebody else is benefiting from it and I'm getting nothing, but I'm still in a happier place.
Yeah.
And so that felt really good.
You're benefiting in a whole different way.
Absolutely. And you know what? My clients and people that I share this story with, they say, "Oh my God, Coaching Genie wouldn't have existed if you hadn't started having panic attacks in your business, if if you hadn't walked away from that business, I'm like, yeah, I would have never had the chance to have space to create, have space to envision something different.
Yes. And that's what those decisions and that different action affords, right? Like it just creates so much capacity to get new creative ideas or to develop something or, all these things that are wanting to come in, but
Mhm.
they don't have the time or the space for you to create them. So when
Yeah,
you make those decisions and make those changes, I mean, you just open up an entire world for yourself and for the people that you're going to impact, right? Because you did this, not only did you positively impact your life, but now you've created a program that
right?
positively impacts other people's lives, who's impacting people's lives. You know what I mean? Like the ripple effect is
Most
fairly
definitely.
is fairly profound.
Yeah. Well, there was a period of time where I didn't have a business. I didn't yet come up with an idea for my next thing. And I even thought maybe I should just go get a job or like, what should I do? I had this space in my life and in my brain. I didn't have any obligations. There were no partners to be responsible to. There were no deadlines or projects, launches, products. There was nothing, emptiness. And in that empty space, I created a beautiful piece of music that is on my website right now. It's the only piece of I've been composing for years, but it's the only one that actually went to a professional studio and recorded with a cellist and a clarinetist. We
Wow.
recorded my piece, and I love it. And it's like this, wow, this music wouldn't have existed had I not had the guts to walk away or the space to create it. And then my software was the culmination of everything. And like, how do other people run their coaching programs without this software? And so I created it for me, and now people are using it, and it's just amazing what shows up in your mind when you have space. I published a book. It's, I think it's like a $12 read on Amazon. It's called Simplicity Entrepreneurship, a really, really cool little book that is kind of a summary of how to align your business with your
Mm.
personality, because that's what I was missing. I wasn't listening to my alignment signal or misalignment signals until I started having panic attacks. So the panic attacks served as a reminder that I was misaligned and I needed to look at things differently. And everything I discovered was in that book. And what I share inside is like the complexity traps, what makes your life and business complicated. One of them is the comparison trap. When you see other people around you, making millions of dollars, running seven-figure launches, it's very easy to start thinking, what's wrong with me? Why can't I make, have a seven-figure launch? And we're all different and we're motivated by different things, you know? So that can be a source of great discomfort and unhappiness when you start comparing yourself and pushing yourself and trying to model those successful people without realizing, like, wait a minute, this is not the right business model for me. This is not the marketing strategy for me. Um, so yeah, it's a lot of lessons learned.
Yeah. And one of those things that I think that we see and hear a lot is this concept of getting booked out, right? Being booked solid, being booked
Yes.
months out. And and you share that it's just not the right goal. Maybe it is for some people, but tell me why from your perspective, like
Yeah.
what is the challenge with being booked out? What's that actually doing?
Well, being booked solid is very much of a goal for any service professional because that means that when you are booked solid, it means that every hour you work, you're getting paid. But what this also does is it takes away or it doesn't leave you any space for perspective, growth, creativity, learning. You're just too busy working with clients. And, you know, um, when you're an entrepreneur, you're not just servicing clients, you also need time to get new clients, to grow, to create your marketing materials, to generate leads, to go to events if that's one of your strategies. For me, it's creating a new webinar, hosting a new virtual summit to drum up some business, right? If I were booked out with clients, there would come a moment where the clients would be done, and then I wouldn't have any business. But also the idea of being booked solid to me it's very unpleasant. To me, being booked solid means you have no freedom to do what you want in life. And maybe you want to be booked solid. I guess, everybody's different. Maybe being booked solid to you feels like it's security, a sense of security. But I like to watch TV in the middle of the day. I like to meditate on Monday at 1 p.m. If I were booked solid, I wouldn't have those opportunities to do with my time as I wish. And so to me, being booked solid is not really the goal. Now, I want to be booked solid in terms of money. I want, so to me, it means how I sell that in my business is I do group coaching. I do very little one-on-one, and I do mostly group coaching. So every Thursday, I have my group calls. And that's a very leveraged income because I'm essentially making $3,000 an hour, right? How many clients would I have to coach to make, $3,000 an hour? Or what kind of a client would I have to have? So I'm all about the efficiency and the leverage, and you have to find out for yourself what it is for you. So yeah, being booked, it's almost like the Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Work Week. He wasn't kidding. The guy dances, does martial arts, travels. I've always admired that. So for me, that's really something that has been a goal. And I remember being on a retreat. I was running a retreat, and people came in. And there was one woman who looked at my calendar. She opened my planner and she said, "Where are all your appointments? How do you make money?" She was stunned to see that I have a lot of white space because she was fully booked. That's how she was making money. So the idea of being booked solid means that you're only making money when you're working with clients. And I didn't want that. That's really what it's all about.
Yeah, and I think that that's the key, right? Because being book solid, and I think you hit the nail on the head, is often associated with security, right? If I'm working, then I'm making money. And that can work for a little bit of time. But to go back to the conversation from earlier, eventually it will burn out. You
Yes.
will burn out. You can only be on, quote unquote, for so long before you just need time, right? You need that white space, you need that flexibility, and everyone has a different lifestyle preference. So
Yes.
one, you have to know what you want, to your point earlier, but two, I guess the question that a lot of people might be thinking is, okay, if I'm not booked out, if I'm not booked solid, if I'm not making money when I'm working, how do I make money? Can you give us some insight on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if being booked solid means you're constantly working with clients, then the next question is, how can you leverage your work with clients to create repurposable assets that can be sold over and over again? Great examples of that are courses. Courses are very popular right now, and group coaching programs or group classes. Maybe you're not a coach, but you have expertise and you can turn that into a group class or group program. I mean, like Inside Coaching Genie, for me, I have 200 pieces of trainings, tools, and resources that I've created over the years. So every time I work with a client, I create a resource. And then I know I can repurpose it with future clients or groups of clients. And I always save it. So that kind of repurposable thing. The other piece is some type of a membership-based program or membership-based service. The point is that you want to leverage and repurpose everything that you create, everything that you know, in a way that would allow you to generate income. I mean, honestly speaking, as you sleep, making money when you sleep was this early 2000s something language that people were laughing at and rejected and found it too hypey and too unreal. But that's exactly what happens when you have assets that you created that you sell, um, whether you are working in that hour or not, right? Because when you're getting paid for the hours you work, you essentially have a job, right? You just created your own job versus working for somebody else, you're working for yourself. Um, and it might feel challenging, like if you're an accountant, how can you make money when you're not working? Um, on clients' time, right? But you really, really can. There are so many different ways to do that. You just have to decide what business model do you want to have. If you're not creating products or subscriptions, how about creating a team, building a team that where you train them and then they do the work based on your method. So there are different ways to leverage your time in a way that you will not have to be booked solid and still make money. So there's many different leveraged business models. They're all they mostly have to do with group work and with capturing your expertise in a way that you can transfer your wisdom to clients without your presence. I learned that years ago, like my coach told me, when you can transfer your knowledge that doesn't rely on you being present, then you have a business. Otherwise, you have a job. So
Mm.
hopefully that makes sense and helps some of our listeners make the shift into like beyond being booked solid. Because if that's your goal, then when your goal is achieved, you'll be booked solid. And then what? Right?
Mm. I love how you said if you're exchanging your time for money, you have a job. I
Yeah.
feel I feel like that probably struck somebody today. I mean, it even kind of struck me a little bit. I'm like, wow, that's so true because that's essentially what you're doing at a job and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's most people start their own business to have the flexibility and the freedom to not have the job, right,
Yes.
you're creating a different type of and style of career. So just to think about it from that perspective, there's so many different creative ways to monetize your skills and abilities and the knowledge that you have now, right? Like post pandemic, there's more options now than there have ever been to offer your services and to support people without having to be on your computer, you know, 10, 12, 15 hours a day to be able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, when I started, I was making websites and I was charging $50 an hour. That to me was incredible because I could say, you know, to my client, hey, you need to update your website. It's outdated. It's been static for months now. Is there anything you want to add? And I would take control over my income and I would come to the client and I would say that, and then I would get that work. Like $50 an hour felt amazing to me. But there was a moment where that was no longer enough, where I no longer wanted to, work for an hour, get $50, work for another hour, get $50. I wanted something that could build on each other and last. So I wanted to create something lasting, something that I could reuse, repurpose, resell. And so that's how, and so I wrote an ebook. That was my first passive income idea, my ebook, $29. I made the sale, I got $29, and I didn't have to do anything more.
Mm.
I didn't have to deliver. That's when the online entrepreneurship bug bit me. I can make money and not have to sit at my computer do anything, and I can do it over and over and over and over again. So I had that first experience of making a sale and not having to deliver, and that changed everything for me.
I love that. And how that kind of relates to even like the one-on-one model, right? Like the one-on-one model very much aligns with the being booked out because it's exchanging time for money in one particular space. But switching to things like group coaching or those passive income, the ebook, like you mentioned, the webinars, the online courses, it's the one to many model. Is that where you're primarily focused now?
Absolutely one to many, but I also have to say you can absolutely create a leveraged model, even doing one-on-one work. And here's how. You develop some type of a system, whether it's a coaching system or some kind of a course, And then you lean into the content that you created and coach your clients around it. So you don't have to teach the same thing over and over again. You're sending that content to your clients. They watch your content or they'll learn from your content. And then all you need to do is show up and coach. In the past, I would have to create something for each client and figure out how to help them solve a specific problem. Now I already have all the tools and trainings. I just send it to them. So it's a leveraged one-on-one model, right? Leaning into your content that you already created or the tools that you've already built makes it so much easier to work with one-on-one clients. It doesn't take as much energy or time. And then if you have like the right environment, which is what Coaching Genie is actually for, the right environment where your clients feel supported, seen, motivated, engaged to take action and achieve their results, then it becomes so much easier to work with clients. And the being booked solid no longer feels like you're burning out. You're just supporting your clients around the systems that you already created, right? And by the way, the idea for Coaching Genie came to me when I was on vacation in the Dominican Republic, because I remember I left in the middle of my program and I wondered, how are my clients doing? Are they doing the homework? Are they getting stuck? Are they struggling? Are they wondering what kind of coach would abandon them in the middle of the program? Because they all knew that I was leaving for vacation between the coaching calls, like for 1 week. But I felt very uneasy. My concern was that I would come back and people would just drop out. I didn't feel like I was taking good care of them. So that was the moment I realized like I needed some kind of a tool or framework or an environment online to make sure that they feel supported and that they connect with each other, even as I'm not there. So systems and tools are great for that. And if you're somebody who doesn't like technology, that's okay. You just need one tool to take care of your clients.
For
A tool that
sure.
you would find simple to use that resonates with your way of working with clients.
Absolutely. As we round out here today, I just got this memory of your programs, how they used to mail them on CD discs.
Home
Like,
study courses, yes.
yeah, like in the like the DVD container, and you would flip through and there'd be multiple discs, and you would watch
Yes,
them at home, and I'm like, wow, so much has changed since those early days. The tools and the systems, the processes, the programs like what you've created, we've come a long way from mailing CDs to people.
I know everything is on cloud now, but I still have a lot of those of my own, as well as the ones that I bought from people in the past. I don't know. I kind of feel like they're very valuable. There's a lot of lessons. They're the kind of trainings that you can listen and watch over and over again and continuously learn. Maybe you weren't ready before and you're ready now. I listened to my coaches' recordings from 2006, 7, and 8.
Wow.
Um, and I'm like, man, I wasn't ready to hear him then. I was arguing, I was resisting. And now I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing now. And I teach that.
It always comes full circle every single time, much like this conversation today.
Yeah.
Milana, this has been just a nostalgic, beautiful full circle moment, to see how far you've come, and the things that you've done, and how you've not only shifted your own life but impacted the people in your world as well. It's just really beautiful. So I want to make sure everyone knows, where can they get in touch with you? How can they find out more about you and the programs that you offer?
Yeah. So my main website is milana.com, my first name. That's where you can go listen to my music as well.
Excellent.
But coachinggenie.com, genie like the magic genie, that's my primary focus right now. And we can, connect through that website as well. If that feels like if this is something that you are passionate about, like coaching, group coaching, offering your expertise, building your own resource library, creating a high touch client experience. That's everything that Coaching Genie offers. So that website is also available. But yeah,
Perfect. We'll make sure we link those in the show notes. And I would love to know, what does gutsy mean to you?
gutsy means feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Because I always felt the fear making transitions from a music teacher to business and computer information systems major. I felt the fear when I quit my job and I had two small kids. I felt the fear when I had to walk away from $1 million business, but I always trusted that I'll be able to do something better afterwards because historically I've been able to do that. And one thing that we haven't really talked about is that only, what is it, 95% of business owners, get out of business within 5 years, something like that. I don't know the exact statistics. And people were always asking me like, well, you stuck it out. You stayed in your business. And that's because I never knew the statistics. I never knew that I was supposed to fail. I just pushed and learned and continued. But the reason it was possible was because I really loved it. And I never gave up because I loved it. So I don't think I'd stick it out if I hated what I was doing.
So true. It's so true. The resiliency of entrepreneurship is just, it's incredible. And the possibilities are truly, truly limitless when you give yourself permission to lean into it. Milana, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. It's just been absolutely beautiful to reconnect with you, and I can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much, Laura. It's my pleasure.
Oh, this episode just means so much to me. Look, I was able to find an old photo of Milana and I from what I think is about 2009. I had gone back to visit her. We took our son with us. He was just a little guy. And I have to share this with you. So if you follow me on social, I'm at that Laura Aura. I'm going to be sharing this image with you because the nostalgia, but also the reminder that you just never know when you're going to meet somebody that could change the trajectory of your life. This photo just really says it all. So again, I'm on all the platforms. I'm at that Laura Aura. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.